Right now, somewhere in the world, a sheep is having a very bad haircut. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why that haircut is one of the most important events in the entire clothing industry. Every single year, the world produces about 2 billion kilograms of wool. That's heavier than 5,000 fully loaded jumbo jets. To get that much wool, more than 400 million sheep get sheared every single year. That's more sheep than there are people in the United States. And here's the part that should really blow your mind. Humans have been doing this exact same thing, raising sheep for their wool, for over 10,000 years. That makes wool one of the very first materials humans ever turned into clothing, long before cotton, long before polyester, long before anything you're wearing right now even existed as an idea. So how does a sheep walking around a field turn into the soft sweater hanging in your closet? Stick around because this process is way more wild, way more high-tech, and way more interesting than you think. And if you like learning how everyday things are actually made, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we break down stuff like this all the time. Let's start at the very beginning, with the sheep itself. The process of removing a sheep's wool is called shearing. Hundreds of years ago, farmers used simple hand scissors, basically big metal blades that they squeezed by hand, over and over until all the wool came off. That took forever, and it was exhausting work. Today, things look completely different. Modern wool farms use heavy-duty electric shearing machines. These machines have powerful motors, but here's a clever design trick. The handle is connected to the motor through a flexible cable instead of having the motor built right into the handle. Why does that matter? Because it keeps the handle light. If the motor was built into the handheld part, it would be heavy, and the worker's arm would get tired within minutes. By separating the motor from the handle, workers can keep shearing for hours without their arm giving out. And these workers are seriously skilled. A professional sheep shearer can shear up to 200 sheep in a single shift. Just sit with that number for a second. 200 sheep, one person, one day. The best shearers in the world can remove an entire sheep's wool coat in under 2 minutes, with smooth, practiced strokes. But here's a number that's almost hard to believe. The current world record for shearing a single sheep is just 37.9 seconds. Less than 40 seconds to remove an entire wool coat safely, cleanly, and completely. That's faster than it takes most of us to tie our shoes. Now you might be wondering, does shearing hurt the sheep? Good question, and the honest answer is no. When it's done correctly, it doesn't hurt at all. Think of it like a haircut. The wool, just like hair, doesn't have nerve endings, so cutting it doesn't cause pain. Actually, shearing is something sheep need. Domestic sheep have been bred for so many generations to grow thick wool that their bodies can no longer shed it naturally the way wild sheep do. If you never sheared them, the wool would just keep growing until the animal couldn't move or died from overheating, or the sheer weight. So shearing isn't just about making sweaters for us, it's actually necessary for the sheep's health and survival. Here's something really interesting. After a sheep gets sheared, its entire body has to adjust to stay warm without that built-in blanket. Because of this, sheep typically eat more food right after shearing. Their bodies are using extra energy to build up fat and warmth. So farmers actually have to plan their feeding schedules around shearing season to make sure the sheep recover their body heat balance safely. Once the wool comes off, it doesn't come off in little clumps. A skilled shearer removes the entire coat in one single connected piece called a fleece. Depending on the breed, a fleece can weigh anywhere from 2 to 10 kilograms. That range comes down to genetics and specific breeding. Either way, that fleece is the raw material that starts this journey toward becoming clothing. And trust me, the next part gets even more interesting. So now we have this giant fleece fresh off the sheep. But it's definitely not ready to become clothing yet. In fact, it's pretty dirty. It's covered in dust, dirt, bits of plant material, and natural oils from the sheep's skin. The first step is called skirting. The fleece gets laid out flat on a perforated table. As workers inspect it, loose dirt and waste naturally fall through these gaps and drop away. At the same time, workers cut away the lower quality edges from the legs and belly, keeping only the cleaner, high-quality wool from the main body. After skirting, the wool gets classified, which is basically sorting it into different quality categories. The main factor here is something called fineness. Fineness just means how thin and soft each individual wool fiber is. Picture comparing a single strand of silk thread to a piece of rope. The finest, softest fibers are set aside for premium clothing, like high-end sweaters and soft scarves that feel amazing against your skin. Meanwhile, the thicker, rougher fibers are sorted into a different category for carpets, rugs, and industrial padding where durability matters most. This sorting step is incredibly important. A single fleece might get split with the fine parts heading toward fashion and the coarser parts toward flooring. Nothing goes to waste. Okay, so the wool has been sorted, but it's still far from clean enough to become clothing. Now comes the deep cleaning. Raw wool, straight off a sheep, contains dirt, sweat, and a natural oily wax substance called lanolin. This deep cleaning process is called scouring. During scouring, the wool gets passed through a long series of connected tanks filled with hot water and cleaning chemicals. These are massive industrial systems. Inside these tanks, mechanical metal claws constantly move and agitate the wool, gently but thoroughly working the hot water through every fiber. This mechanical movement is essential because it loosens and lifts out all that built-up dirt and lanolin without damaging the delicate fibers. Now, here's a fact that genuinely surprises a lot of people: that lanolin doesn't just get thrown away as waste. Companies collect and sell it as a separate product. Lanolin is widely used in the cosmetics industry for face creams and lip balms because of its incredible moisturizing properties. So your favorite hand cream might contain lanolin that originally came from sheep's wool. It's a brilliant example of how almost nothing goes to waste. Once scoured and rinsed, the wool is soaking wet. Industrial facilities use powerful streams of hot air blown directly through the wool to dry it quickly and evenly. After drying, the wool gets compressed using massive hydraulic presses into incredibly dense, tightly packed bales weighing around 200 kilograms. Packing the wool this tightly makes it efficient to transport. If you're realizing how much engineering goes into a simple sweater, hit subscribe right now. Once those wool bales arrive at the next factory, they finally get opened back up for the next transformation: dyeing. At this point, the wool is clean and dry, but it's still its natural color, which depends on the specific sheep breed it came from. If a company wants blue, red, or black, this is the stage where the color gets added in large, high-temperature chemical baths. Heat plays a critical role here because it helps the dye molecules actually bond with the wool fibers on a chemical level for permanent color. Proper dyeing changes the fiber so the color becomes a permanent part of it, which is why a wool sweater can be washed for years without fading. After dyeing, the wool fibers are a complete mess. Imagine a giant tangled clump, way more knotted and chaotic than bedhead. Before this wool can become yarn, it needs to be untangled and aligned. This happens through a process called carding. Inside these machines are multiple rollers covered in thousands of tiny, fine metal teeth, almost like an enormous mechanical hairbrush. These teeth gently comb through every section, separating individual strands and aligning all the fibers so they're running in the same direction. What goes in as a tangled mess comes out as a smooth, even, continuous sheet of wool fibers. It genuinely looks like a completely different material. For the highest quality products, there's one more step: combing. This is where shorter fibers get filtered out and separated from the longer ones. Fiber length matters because longer fibers create smoother, stronger yarn, while shorter ones create a fuzzier, less consistent thread. This extra combing step is the difference between a cheap, scratchy sweater and an expensive, buttery, soft one. It's all about that perfect alignment. Now we finally arrive at spinning, and this is where loose wool fiber actually becomes something resembling thread. The smooth, aligned sheet of wool fiber gets fed into spinning machines. They pull and stretch the fiber while simultaneously twisting it continuously. This twisting motion is incredibly important. The amount of twist applied directly determines how strong and durable the final yarn will be. More twist means stronger thread. Less twist creates a softer, looser yarn. Manufacturers carefully control this based on what the final product will be. As this happens, the resulting yarn gets wound around large spinning bobbins, creating finished spools of wool thread, ready for the last stage. We've finally made it to the last major step: weaving. This is where individual strands of yarn actually become fabric. Weaving today is almost entirely automated, handled by massive machines called looms that operate at incredible speeds. Two separate sets of yarn get interlaced together at perfect right angles. One set runs vertically, the warp, and the other horizontally, the weft. As the loom rapidly passes the weft threads over and under the warp, thousands of times per minute, these two sets of yarn lock together into a single unified piece. The exact pattern of interlacing can be adjusted to create different textures, from a tightly woven dress fabric to a loose, chunky blanket weave. And just like that, what started as a messy coat on a sheep has become finished fabric. Every piece of wool you wear went through this exact same incredible journey. The next time you put on a wool sweater, take a second to think about everything that piece of material actually went through to get to you. It started on the back of a sheep somewhere thousands of miles away, shaped by 10,000 years of human knowledge and modern engineering, just to keep you warm. Hit subscribe right now and tap that bell icon so you never miss a story like this one. Leave a comment below. Did any of these facts surprise you? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.